As a former newspaper photographer, I have seen my share of fires, floods, and other disasters, but nothing prepared me for what I saw in Greensburg, Kansas, after an EF5 tornado almost 2 miles wide destroyed most of the town. When we arrived, we were met with a mile-long line of residents and family members waiting to get back to their homes to see what was left. Once we got into town, we started to see the damage immediately. A missing roof and an overturned truck were just the beginning. The further we got into town, the worse it got. Turning north onto Main Street toward the grain elevator, into the area set aside for the media, the first serious damage came into view and we started to realize just how bad the destruction was. As we were getting our camera gear out of the car, a wrecked propane truck started leaking. It was a reminder to be careful. After meeting our National Guard escort, he explained the rules and we headed south on Main Street toward the courthouse. As we walked, we saw rubble piled several feet high along the street in what was once downtown Greensburg. Because all the street signs had been blown down in the storm, street names had been spray painted in the middle of the streets. Everywhere we looked, there were damaged buildings and cars, but the full impact had yet to sink in. At the courthouse, workers were repairing the roof while others moved out county records and the National Guard cleaned up the area. FEMA officials were busy with visiting politicians that were there to survey the damage. Heading west from the courthouse, we passed what was left of the fire station, where someone had saved a fireman's helmet and hung it on a pole in the rubble. Next we came to the wrecked water tower and debris that had once been the gift shop at the world's largest hand-dug well and world's largest pallasite meteorite. Don Stimson had earlier in the day dug out the meteorite and was now trying to salvage any of the remaining historical artifacts. Continuing west into the residential area, we began to get the full impact of what had happened. There were whole blocks covered with debris, with nothing standing except the skeletal remains of a few large trees. Here and there were parts of homes still standing, maybe just an interior wall or two, half a house, or in a few rare cases an almost intact house. I think what amazed me the most were the cars and trucks strewn everywhere. One sitting in a basement where there was once a house, another in a living room, and many in front or backyards. Not even the sheriff's cars were spared. One resident said, "It wasn't the tornado that took out our neighbor's house, it was my brother's truck going through it." Walking north and east back to the media area, we came across more of the same, ruined cars and homes with some people starting to save what they could. We walked by what was left of a motel where about 100 people had taken shelter in the basement. Occasionally something stood out, like the shelves of drinks and what was left of the cooler at a convenience store, or the tables left in rows at a restaurant. After leaving Greensburg, our next stop was a Red Cross shelter in the Haviland High School gym. There we got a look at how the survivors were living. We saw the cots in the gym, the food service in the elementary school cafeteria, and the many donations that have been made to help the tornado victims. On the drive back to the newspaper in Pratt, I realized that I hadn't seen any tears, only determination and hope from people like the Friesen family with their hand-painted sign, Don Stimson working to save what he could from the town's main tourist attraction, Debbie Boyles digging through the rubble of her home, Chelsea Mays trying to save what she could, and Brandy Yon carrying the game from what was left of her great-grandmother's house. These are the people that will rebuild Greensburg.